I feel like the old training scenario never really gets old. I guess I guess it gets a bit tiring in the fact that you're like, okay, well, they're training. Nothing too bad's going to happen. But Gav Thorpe does a pretty good job of doing that Full Metal Jacket kind of deal, where he gives you like a really kind of intimate look at what training's like and what it's about. I spend the rest of the time. Wow, I'm just gonna start over. I spend the rest of the week teaching them knife fighting, proper knife fighting, high fashion, including every dirty trick I've learned over the hard years. We all get a few more cuts and bruises, but I allow no one to go to the infirmary until the end of the day. Each morning after breakfast, I give them a sermon on what it means to be a soldier. One day it is about following orders. The next is on the nature of victory. I tell them about teamwork and trust. Other times I regale them on the uses of fear as a weapon. There's no pattern to my teachings. It's just stuff that comes to me the night before as I lie in my small cot in the officer's room adjacent to the dormitory they share with each other. It's all stuff I know. It's in my heart. But finding the words to explain it to them is difficult. How can I teach them something which I just know inside of me? I have no doubt that what I have to say is just as important as knife fighting, marksmanship, wilderness survival, camouflage techniques, field navigation, and all the other stuff they can fill your head with. But I can't quite figure it out just yet. I sit on my bunk at the end of the first week, trying to get it all straight, trying to work out exactly what it is they need to do. They need to know if they're going to survive. On my own, in that small room with just a bunk and a small locker, I feel like I've just swapped one cell for another. I hear a laugh to the connecting door, and my heart sinks. I'm not one of them this time around. I'm the officer, and more than just title. I can't just sit in there and swamp stories with them. They're not my friends. I slouch there wishing more than ever that Gappo or Franks were still alive. Even better, that Lori wasn't a scattering of ash on Typho's prime. It all seems unreal to me, like it was all a dream or something, and I've just woken up in this bed half remembering it. Why? Why was I the only one who survived? What is it about me that I can pass on to these others so perhaps they'll live as well? It's with a start that the answer comes to me, and I almost bang my head back against the walls I sit up. I was more than plain. It was more than plain determination, more than just skill and luck. You can leave destiny, or you can leave destiny hanging for all I care. I've been thinking about this the wrong way around. It's not why I survived; it's why the others didn't. They didn't really want to, not as much as I did. Never once did I truly think that I was going to die. I never really believed anyone would kill me, except perhaps the Tyranids. But even they didn't manage it. The Emperor helps those who help themselves. One of the old saying one of the old sayings tells us. Everything I've been struggling to understand starts to come together. This isn't about building a team, training soldiers, passing on their skills. It's about giving each of them the same indestructible belief of themselves that I have. Tonight's the night for realizations, I guess, because it's then that I see how the Colonel can walk through the bloodiest battles in the galaxy without a scratch. He's got even more belief in himself than I have. It protects him, almost like a shield. The only problem left is how do I get the others to create their own shields, to think that they're invincible? A plan begins to form in my mind. I do have some experience in the war simulations, and one of the strangest things really about it is it seems like my underlings are so much more likely to get killed than I am. Just for whatever reason, they're just a little bit slower. The next morning, I appear in the mess room with a pile of gray and black uniforms in my arms. While the others settled into bed last night, I took a trip to the storerooms with a special request. The hall itself is about 30 meters long, 15 wide, with 6 wide tables arranged in 2 rows along the length. The bare, unpainted metal of the walls is polished and pristine, the result of the team's labors yesterday, before I allowed them their evening meal. Well, discipline isn't just about being calm under fire or following orders. It's also about being able to do the dull, lousy jobs and still stay sharp, like sentry duty or cleaning the mess hall. Form up, I shout, and they push themselves to their feet, standing at ease behind their places at the long bench. This morning, I have something different to show you, I announce, placing the uniforms at the end of the table. You will not become true soldiers until you think like true soldiers. You will not think like true soldiers until you understand what it means to be true soldiers. You will not understand what it means to be true soldiers while you think you are something else. The logical conclusion of this is that while you think you're something else, you will never be true soldiers. They look at me with dumbfounded expressions. I don't expect them to understand. It only became clear to me last night. I look at the name tag sewn on the breast of the first uniform. Who are you? I ask, pointing at Strandisk. Tanya Strandisk, sir, she replies, standing to attention. No, you are not. I tell her with a shake of my head, picking up my top uniform. Who are you? She thinks for a moment before replying. Trooper Strandisk, 13th Penal Legion, the last Chancellor, sir, she answers with a nod of triumph. Nice try, but not right, I say, looking at all of them. A true soldier does not know who they are because of their name. You, I say, pointing at Morik. How does a true soldier know who they are? I don't know the answer to that, sir, he barks back, snapping to attention as well. Can anyone here tell me how a true soldier knows who they are? I cast my gaze around as I'm speaking. By knowing his purpose in the eyes of the Emperor, Lieutenant Cage. A voice bellows like a thunderclap behind me, causing us all to jump to attention. The colonel strides up and stands beside me, glancing over my shoulder at the uniforms. Am I correct, Lieutenant Cage? Yes, Colonel, you are, I say. His eyes meet mine, and his ice blue stare holds me for a second. He gives me an approving nod. Carry on, Lieutenant Cage, he tells me, stepping back a couple paces. I try to block his presence from my mind, replaying the last minute or so in my head to catch up where I had gotten into the little mental script I had devised for myself instead of sleeping last night. A true soldier does not know himself by his name, where he is from, or even who he fights for, I tell them, the words coming back to me. I can feel the colonel's eyes on me as my throat goes dry. I cover my discomfort by beckoning Tanya over with a finger before continuing. A true soldier knows himself only by what he does. I turned to Strandisk, handed her the uniform. You are not Tanya Strandisk. You are Trooper Strandisk, I tell her. Who are you? I still don't know, sir, she says apologetically, looking at the others for help, maybe for just support. What does your badge name say? I ask softly, indicating the uniform in her hands. It says sharpshooter, sir, she replies after looking down. Who are you? I ask her with a grin, my voice firm. Sharpshooter, sir, she answers hesitantly. Why are you asking me? I say, my voice dripping with scorn. Do I know you better than you know yourself? She stands there for a few heartbeats, looking at me, then the uniform, then back at me. Her jaw sets tight, and her eyes go hard as she realizes the full truth. I am sharpshooter, sir. Her voice can't hide the bitterness she feels. Her new name a constant reminder of the guilt she feels. Return to your position, sharpshooter, I command her, picking up the next uniform. One by one, I call them over, give them their fatigues, and send them back. When they're all back in line again, each holding their uniforms in front of them, I walk the opposite side of the table. Out of the corner of my eye, I can see the colonel, watching everything, studying me, and the other last chancers. Sound off! I bark, looking at Strelly at the left of the line. Flyboy, sir, he shouts. Demolition man, sir, Tross calls out next. Sharpshooter, sir, Strandix tells me again. Hero, sir, comes Morik's parade ground bellow. Brain, sir, Quidlin replies. Aye, sir, shouts Isle. Stitcher, sir. Strongberg finishes the roll call. From now on, those are your names. I reply them harshly. You will use those names at all times. Every time your name is spoken, you will hear it well, and you will know who you are. Anyone forgets this rule, and you'll be punished. Is that clear? Yes, sir, they chorus. I'm about to dismiss them to get ready for the morning's training when the colonel interrupts. What is your name? My name, sir? I ask, taken back. I turn and look directly at him. I hadn't thought of a name for myself. He seems to think for a moment. Before the corner of his lip turns into the slightest of smiles. You are last chance, he says with a grin. Then he strides off, out of the mess hall. He looks back over his shoulder at me. I expect to see you in uniform in the future. The training continues steadily for another 2 weeks. I work on the last chancer's fitness and marksmanship. It almost settles into a routine. So halfway through the second week, I speak to the ship's officers and arrange for a day-night lighting cycle to be adjusted in our quarters. Sometimes we'll have the equivalent to a 20-hour day, followed by just a few hours sleep. Other times, I let them rest for half a day before rousing them. I'm still worried about their alertness, though. I need them to be as sharp as knives before we arrive where we're going. So I organize a little exercise to test them. It's midday throughout the 21st night, and I creep into their dorm. The room is filled with heavy breathing and gentle snores. The last chancers are worn out from a day of training, wearing heavy packs the whole time. In my hand, I have some small slips of parchment used for identifying corpses that I had a scribe write on. You were killed in your sleep. The first bunk is Trost's, curled up with his face into the wall, hands holding the blanket tied around him. Barely breathing, I lean over and place the first piece of paper on his pillow next to him. On the bed above Strongberg lies stretched out on his back, his blanket down to his waist, mouth open, his breathing punctuated by nasal whistling. I lay the parchment slip across his throat. I continue this around the dormitory, easing myself from one bunk to the next. In the dim night of the lighting, there's only Morik left, the most likely to wake up, when a muttering causes me to freeze. I stay like that, breath held, for a few seconds, trying to identify where the noise is coming from. It's to my left, and I cautiously follow the mumbling to its source. It's Strandisk, talking in her sleep. She's restless, plagued by her dreams. Satisfied she's asleep, I creep back to Morik's bunk and slide the parchment under his blanket. Then I sit myself by the door to my room, back against the wall, and wait for the morning. It was far too easy for me, and that's what's worrying. I have to work out how to punish them, so they'll learn never to be so complacent again. I can't be too hard on them, though. Who would think they would have to set watch aboard a friendly starship? Something short and sharp would do the trick. If they don't learn this time, I'll have to come up with something worse. I sit there watching them, so quiet, so vulnerable. 2.5 years sharing a hall-sized cell with hundreds of murderers, thieves, and rapists taught me how to sleep lightly. I listen to their slow breathing, imagining the blood bubbling into their lungs if I had been a real enemy. I hear Strandisk give a short gasp before rolling over. I filter out the noises, breathing, Tanya's mumbling, Stromberg's light snoring, and listen to the sounds of the ship around me. The walls hum slightly, energy conduits coursing with plasma run underneath the floor. I can hear a faint clank, clank, clank of heavy machinery operating in the distance. There's the sound of the armsmen patrolling the corridor outside, their boots clumping along the metal decking. The calm is a long way from the thunder of shells, the crack of las guns, the boom of grenades that I'm more used to. I concentrate on the sounds, picking out different ones, and the music being played by the ship to keep myself awake. It's Stronenberg who wakes up first, his withdrawal-induced sleepiness rousing him only a couple hours after midnight. I watch him from the darkness, sitting up in bed, startled by the fluttering paper that drops to his lap. He picks it up and turns it in the faint light from the dimmed glow globes above, trying to see what it is. He slides his feet out of bed and sits on the edge. I don't move a muscle. I just look around. He must have noticed me out of the corner of his eye because he twists sharply to look at me, alarm on his face. I raise my finger to my lips and keep silent, and then point at his bed. He gets the message, lying back down again, the parchment crumpled in one hand. The others rouse themselves when the lights flicker into daytime brightness, and the end of the 8-hour sleep cycle. One by one they wake, making confused exclamations, or just scratching their heads, upon finding their mortuary tags. Form up! I shout, pushing myself to my feet. They fall and scramble out of their beds, standing to attention in front of their bunks. So now I'm leading a squad of corpses, I tell them scornfully, walking the length of the dormitory. Well, that's the mission, frag good and proper, isn't it? None of them reply. They all look straight ahead, not meeting my gaze as I walk past them. I walk back again slowly, deliberately, teasing out the suspense, aggravating their anxieties. Stopping at my door again, I spit on the spot to face them, my hands behind my back. Next time, I shall use a knife, I warned them, meaning every word of it. And I won't think twice about cutting you. As for your embarrassing performance last night, I have this to say. You are all corpses. And as we all know, corpses don't eat. So there will be no meals today, and battlefield water rations only. Do any of you have a question? Tanya steps forward, concern on her face. Yes, sharpshooter, I say. You were in here last night? You were in here last night, last chance? She asks worriedly. Almost the whole night, sharpshooter, I tell her with a smile. Does that worry you? Don't you trust your training lieutenant, sharpshooter? I trust my training lieutenant, last chance, she replies quickly. Then you're an idiot, sharpshooter. I snarl at her, striding down the room towards her. She flinches as I stop in front of her. There's not one person in the Emperor's dark galaxy I would trust, least of all me. I'm not here to be nice to you, sharpshooter. I'm not here to look after you. I round on the rest of them and bellow at them. I am here to make sure that when the time comes, you can look after yourself and me and the rest of your squad. I whirl on her again. I'll break you in half on a whim, sharpshooter, so don't ever trust me unless I tell you to. Is that clear? No, last chance, it isn't. Quidlin replies, stepping forward. If we can't trust you, then how are we supposed to trust you when you say that what we can do, given that you may be lying to us about trusting you? Exactly my point, Brains, I tell him with a grin. Now all of you, get cleaned up. Breakfast time will be spent in the armory, doing weapons maintenance drill. I will join you at the normal time for today's new adventure. In the meantime, I believe there is still some fresh meat left in the officer's kitchen, which I shall be enjoying. They break ranks and busy themselves with getting ready. I turn to walk out when something occurs to me. Oh, one more thing, I say to them, causing them to pause in their preparations. If any of you can tag me with one of those, you all earn 1 day's rest and recuperation. Otherwise, if any of you try and fail, there'll be another day without food. That sounds fair, doesn't it? Yes, last chance, they reply in unison. Good. I'll be seeing you shortly, I tell them, whistling a jaunty tune in my head that my dead comrade Paul had taught me a couple years ago. I won't bore you with the bawdy lyrics, but suffice to say, it's called The Hangman's Five Daughters. Last chance of the last chancers. It is nice when they get nicknames in the book because then you don't have to keep saying their name over and over again. I do enjoy myself some carbonation. I hope they have carbonation in the future. Is this not? Oh, yeah. The next day and the day after that, they all look exhausted. None of them gotten any sleep, as far as I can tell. I suspect they're having disturbing dreams of me sneaking around with my knife. Good, that was the point. I overhear them this morning discussing a watch rota. That should be interesting to see in action, considering what variable length of the nights that we've requested. I've decided to give them another week before I try anything again. It'll show whether they can keep their guard up at night after night, or whether they lapse into a false sense of security again. I think it's time to start doing some squad-based training now. After breakfast, on day 24, I'd lead them to the training bay. We're kitted out with full equipment. We'll be spending the next several days in there without coming out. I've issued everyone with las guns, the standard Imperial Guard ornament, as well as knives, ammunition for 100 shots each, rations, water canteens, bedrolls, and everything else. I also gave them new uniforms with the common brown and green camo scheme. They don't have the name bandages to remind them who they are now. Not one of them has slipped up so far from that front, but I'm waiting for it. They're starting to get tired, weary from irregular sleep, and day after day of me bawling them out, pushing them hard, relentlessly driving them on. 100 shots really is not a lot. Like the standard infantry guy nowadays carries 210 shots, and you can piss that away in like minutes. So 100 shots, I mean, the only time I'd ever think you'd use 100 shots or like think 100 shots was good is if that's all you had or if you were going on like a really long range mission. But even then, I'd still want more shots. 210 sounds good. That's 7 magazines. 7 magazines compared to 3.5. 3.5 mags. That doesn't sound good. It's for their own good. If they can't take the training, how in the Emperor's name are they going to fare in real combat? It's been tiring work for me too. Somehow, I doubt they appreciate the effort I put on their behalf. When it comes down to it, I'm starting to feel responsible for them. Like I've never felt responsible for anyone else before. I tell myself that if they get themselves killed, if they foul up and the mission goes up like a photon flash flare, ultimately, it'll be their own fault. But inside, I know this isn't 100% true. I know that if I miss something out, if I take everything for granted, if I go easy on them for just a moment, I will have failed them. And through them, the Colonel. Anyways, we're all decked out in battle dress and heading into the training bay. We pass through a couple of airlocks, monitored by white robed tech priests, whose job it is to maintain the stable environments inside each of the bays. At the end of it, a large double doored portal opens up. It's amazing. On one side of the door is metal with mesh decking. On the other, the side steps lead down into the rolling hills and fields. I can see a small prefabricated farmhouse a few hundred meters to my left, smoke drifting lazily out of its chimney. We walk down the wide stairwell into the grass, gazing all around us like first timers in a brothel. With a clang, the door shuts closed behind us. I assume the walls are some kind of image that's painted on them because the agri-world landscape stretches as far as the eye can see. Above our heads, small puffy clouds dot a deep blue sky. I blink in disbelief as I notice the clouds are drifting across the ceiling. Last chance, Isle whispers to me. Sorcerers of the Machine God. He's looking behind me, and I turn to see what he's staring at. The doors have disappeared, as have the steps. As in every other direction, the hills stretch as far as the horizon. In the far distance, I can just make out the purple slopes of a mountain range, topped with snow. The others are murmuring suspiciously, shrinking back from the open sky above. Yes, the most powerful technomagic, I say quietly in agreement, awed and afraid at the nature of our surroundings. This is unbelievable, gasps Quidlin, dropping to his knees and running his fingers through the grass. It feels real. It even smells real. I notice that he's right. It smells like an agro world. There's even a faint breeze blowing from our left. Fresh air on a ship where the air gets constantly recycled from great refiners, breathed millions and millions of times before it's almost thick with age. I was expecting something pretty special after the colonel told me there were only a couple of dozen of these ships in the entire Navy, but nothing as extravagant as this. His powerful contacts have been working hard for him again. It is real, I say ominously, a sudden shiver of unnatural fear coursing through me. I think it's been grown here by the tech priests. This is wrong, a voice at the back of my mind tells me. Ships don't have woods and meadows on board. They have engines and guns, and they're built out of metal, not dirt. And at that point, a voice blares out, seemingly from the air itself, shattering the illusion. This is Warrant Officer Campbell, the heavenly voice tells us. Tech Priest Almarex will be monitoring you in Training Base 6. If you need to contact him, adjust your comm sets to shipboard frequency 12.3. When you wish to leave, return to this point and transmit a signal on board ship frequency 12.4, and the doors will open. Oh, and a word of warning. Our climate regulators predict rainfall for most of the night, so set up a good camp. Good luck with your training. Rainfall? Tanya laughs nervously. We're going to get rained on aboard a starship? That's a first. No fauna, though, Quidlin continues, looking back. No what brains? Asks Frost, who sat on his pack, tossing a grenade from hand to hand. No fauna, Quidlin repeats to himself. squinting back in the sky. What brains means to say here is there aren't any animals here, Strongberg explains, squatting down next to the ex officio Sabatorium agent. No birds, no animals, no insects, only vegetation. Why did he just say that? Complains Trost, ripping up a handful of grass and letting it scatter between his fingers. Okay, everyone, daydreams and paradise time is over, I snap at them. We are here to work, not rest. Flyboy, you have the map. Find out where we are. Shirley pulls out his pack and starts rummaging through it, looking for the chart. One of the tech priests handed to me as we passed through the bay entryway. Emperor's blood, Flyboy, Isles swears at Strelly, pulling the pack from him and tipping its contents to the ground. He finds the chart and waves it angrily at the pilot's nose. What in hell's use is a map if you can't find it? Well, you take care of the map then, Eyes. Strelly snaps back, gathering together his stuff and piling it back into his backpack. Flyboy keeps the map, I tell them, snatching it off Isle and handing it to Strelly. Why last chance? Asks Isle. I was in recon, remember? I could find places with my eyes closed. That's why you don't need to learn how to use a map, you stupid son of an orc, I shout at him, pushing him to his backside. I glare at the others. And that's why Flyboy isn't here's in charge of the map. When Eyes gets killed, who else is going to know what to do? Don't you mean if I get killed last chance? Says Isle defensively. I round on him and kick him in the chest, flattening him again. The way you're going, Eyes, it's most definitely when, not if, I spit at him. When everyone has finished arguing, we might carry on. Right. Our mission for today is to take and attempt to hold that farmstead. I pointed the clutch of buildings about half a kilometer away. This whole area is considered to be hostile. We're expecting the place to be reinforced at dusk, so we have to be in by then. There will be targets appearing during the course of the day, and our progress will be monitored by the tech priests. This evening, we will set camp and have a full debriefing. Now, Flyboy, show us the map. The others gathered around as I spread the chart on the grass. It shows the farm and the cleft of a shadow valley between two hills. We have no way of knowing how accurate the map is, though, but there appears to be a road or track of some kind leading in from what I reckon to be the north. How would you attack, demolitions man? I prod Tross in the arm. Wait for cover of darkness, then sneak in, last chance, he tells me. I could rig something up with the squad's grenades, blow the whole thing to tinder. Great. Then we get to defend a pile of sticks. Well, the others are stupid, Tross huffs, stepping up and getting away from the group. Flyboy's right, demolition man, I say, standing up and dragging him back to the map. When we find out whatever it is we've got to do, there'll be a plan, and everybody has to stick to the plan. You may be used to working on your own, but unless you want a bolt between your eyes, you better start learning to share. So what would you do, last chance? Strandisk says, squatting down and looking at the map again before turning her eyes to me. I want to hear what you meatheads come up with first. And then you get a chance to shoot holes in my plan, I tell them, pulling my pack off and sitting down on it. Come on, sharpshooter, let's hear what you've got to say. We spent an hour or so discussing different ways of taking that farm. We go over frontal assaults, flank attacks, divisionary feints, fusillade, and half a dozen other ways of kicking a potential enemy out. As the time passes, I let them get on with more and more, and soon they're discussing the good points and the pitfalls without any intervention or prompting from me. I let them think that they're going to have their way, though. I decided straight away what we're going to do. It's best to let them get it out of their system before I start giving them orders. Hopefully, they'll learn a thing or two, including following the man in charge. One of them distracts me from my thoughts. What was that? I ask, looking around. Somebody say something? I asked what support we can expect, last chance, Quidlin tells me. You know, air support, artillery, tanks, that sort of thing. I just laugh. I laugh until I'm red in the face. They look at me like I've gone insane, which to them probably isn't too far from the truth. You got saw it all, brains, I say, grinning like a fool. This is it. No planes, no tanks, no artillery. Just the eight of us, with our las guns and frag grenades, and our heads switched on. I rein myself in and get serious. I'm training you for a real mission, when all we're going to have is us. Forget about support and what you don't have. That's how dead men think. True soldiers think about themselves and what they can do, without help from anyone else. So what do you agreed on? So have you agreed on a plan yet? We think we have one that will work, last chance, Strongberg informs me solemnly. Good. Now forget it, I tell them. My statement is answered with objections and confusion, and they start to try to tell me anyways, arguing that it'll work. Trost hurls abuse and stomps away angrily. I don't give a frag about your plan. I'm in charge, I tell them harshly, stepping away from Sternberg's hand, which he laid on my arm when he was arguing with me. I never said we'd use your plan for the actual attack. I just asked how you would do it. Now shut the frag up and listen to what I'm going to tell you. If we don't take this farmstead, nobody eats tonight, and we try again tomorrow. Is that clear? They answer sullenly, like children who've been told what they can't that they can't play tough. This is the plan. Any of you fail to follow orders, it'll be bad for all of you, I tell them. They gather around the map while I point out the various locations. Demolition man, I, as hero myself, will infiltrate the farm and sneak into the building. I point to a barn-like structure within the compound, about 20 meters from the main house. If we encounter any resistance, we'll take them out quickly and silently, using knives only. I glare at them to make my point. If this was a real point, if this is a real fight, any noise will probably bring down all kinds of crap onto us before we even get started. Sharpshooter and Stitcher will take up the positions on this ridge. I point to the slope at the east of the objective. Find some good cover with flexible firing positions. Your job is to bring down fire onto the farmhouse before our assault begins, and cover our backs when we go in. We die, it's your fault. A pair of them nod seriously, understanding the importance of their role. The only way to take that building is to get someone actually in there and clear it out room by room. Whoever that would be worthless if reinforcements came in behind us or surrounded us before the others could bolster any defense we might muster. You two, I say, looking at Strelly and Quidlin, will move into positions just once the others begin their fusillade. Get on the roof of the outhouse. I indicate a large building just behind and to the left of the one we plan to assault from, and provide cover and fire on the target as we move in. Once we're inside, take cover over our position, ready to follow us in quick when I give the shout. Quidlin is studying the map intensely, a slight frown creasing his forehead. You got something to say, Brains? I ask, turning my head on it, my gaze on him. The attack is centered on the south and east, last chance. He points out, drawing an arc around the farm with his finger. You got nothing to protect you from the north and west. We can't spread ourselves too thin, I replied patiently. Any less in the assault team, and we risk being kicked out straight away. One person on the ridge won't be enough to keep enemy heads down before we go in, and we won't be able to cover their back. The same goes for the two inside the compound with us. The main road comes in from the southwest. I traced the point of my dagger along its length on the map. So we'll have to run into anything along there. The objective itself will shield us from any counterattack from the opposite direction. because the enemy will have to either enter from the opposite side of the building, which puts them in front of us, or circle around to where we go in and get caught in a crossfire by you guys and the team on the hill. You talk about encircling, moving around and circling, but aren't these just pop up targets like on the shooting ranges last chance? Asked Frost. I've got two answers to that, I snap at him. First, this whole area is littered with those targets, and the tech adepts in control can raise and lower them in any sequence to simulate movement. Second, and more importantly, this is a battle. Don't think of this as an exercise, something to pass the time. When we're on the mission, we'll be fighting real bastards who want to kill us. And I don't want any of you getting into routine where the enemy stays in one place. A soldier who sits still too long is a dead soldier and useless to me and the Emperor, or an easy target if he's fighting for the other side. That's true, agrees Strandisk. First rule of the sniper is to take a shot and then move on. Well, thanks for your support, sharpshooter, I say sourly before going back to the attack. This has to be timed right. Everyone needs to act when and how I tell you. Eyes goes in the first and scouts around and reports back to me. We'll make any changes then, and after that, you follow your orders no matter what happens. Is that understood? They all nod, although Quidlin and Tross seem doubtful. Once we have a clear route, Stitcher and Sharpshooter get into position on the ridge, I continue. I'll give you half an hour to make your way there. You can see the whole thing from where you'll be, or you should be able to get to it in the right place. Sharpshooter, once you're up there, point out a few good places for Stitcher to settle. I'll pick a couple of good spots, last chance, and don't worry, she assures me with that tight-lipped smile. I bet you will, I agree, remembering her lethal record. When you see everyone else in position, open fire on the building. The covering team in the compound, I look at Shirley and Quidlin, will open fire only when the assault teams fire. Direct your shots at other parts of the building, to the ones we're firing at. When we get inside, get off the roof. Don't waste any time at all. And when we get into where we were, don't anyone think about firing into the farm once we've gone in. You're there to keep the grounds clear. Anyone shoots me, I'll come back and haunt you for the rest of your fragging lives and make you even more miserable than you are right now. No firing on the building once you're inside. No firing on the building once you're inside. I can remember that, says Quidlin with a nervous nod. Relax, brains, I tell him. I've been through more blood and guts fighting than you could imagine, and I know what I'm doing. Now, everybody tell me what the plan is. I make them repeat it to me 3 times each. First of all, the attack in order as I explained it. Then I get them to tell me on their own parts, pointing at them each in turn. Then doing the same again, but picking on them randomly. Satisfied they understand what's expected of them, I wave them away to get their kit together. We move out some time in what I guess to be mid-afternoon. I forgot to ask how long the day was supposed to be in here. That said, I don't know how much information we'll have on the actual mission. So some flexibility and adaptation won't be out of order. I mean, the Colonel Inquisitor Oriel have been planning Court Norum for years and still had to make it up as we went along at some points. For all I know, we might just get dropped into a big mess and forced to improvise the whole thing from start. It's too much to expect this bunch to be able to do that at the moment, though. I'd rather they learn how to follow orders and the exact letter and can get their heads around a plan without it taking hours to explain. Everyone is lined up with their own kit, and I shoulder my pack and join them. Right, we'll move out in single file, 10 paces apart. Eyes goes on 30 paces ahead, I tell them, waving the recon specialist with my lasgun. Everyone keeps their eyes and ears open and their mouths shut. I don't know what surprises this place has got in store for us. You see the enemy, hit the dirt and wave everyone else down. Don't fire until I give you the order. I want this to be disciplined and calm. No mad firefights unless I say so. Yes, last chance, they chorus back. Right, let's move out. I give the order. We set off across the field.